The Sports Desk at the Columbus Dispatch presents the BuckeyeXtra Basketball Podcast. With your host, Ohio State basketball beat writer Adam Jardy.
Brady Matisse has given me the rock. Here it goes. Up and away. Slam jam bam. And now he does a little dance.
Now, the BuckeyeXtra Basketball Podcast.
This is Adam Jardy from the Columbus Dispatch. Today is Friday, January 9th, 2026, and it's my official duty to welcome you into episode 521 of the BuckeyeXtra Men's Basketball Podcast. Welcome to Jubilation City. Welcome to Matthew Knight Arena. I'm here in Eugene, Oregon. It is just past midnight here on the West Coast, so hello to everyone that's in the future out there on the East Coast, but time changes always mess with my mind. Ohio State tonight, after having taken a difficult, hard-to-stomach, potentially send a season one of two ways type of loss last time out, the 3-point home loss to number 10 Nebraska, the Buckeyes come into Eugene and do some things they haven't really done all season. Essentially lead from tip to final whistle and take care of business. Took care of what looks like a really bad Oregon team, and benefited from the fact that the Ducks were without one of their primary players, managed their first game, the Buckeyes, without one of their primary players out with an injury, and emerged with a 72-62 win that Oregon threatened to yell enough to almost kind of make it interesting in the late moments, but that wasn't until Ohio State had already blown the game wide open with a 21-0 second half run that pushed Ohio State's lead to 24 points with 7 minutes to go. And at that point, the fans started heading to the exits. Ohio State, with this win, now improves to 11-4 overall, 3-2 in the Big Ten, 3-0 on the road, 0-2 in the Big Ten. First 3-0 start since the 2017-18 team started, I believe, 5-0 on the road in the Big Ten before Penn State messed things up for the Buckeyes. We won't get into that, but this was a convincing win for Ohio State against a team that it clearly was better than. I think that's an immediate top takeaway from this game. That I came into the season clearly higher on Oregon than I should have been. I looked at a team with Jackson Shelstead and Nate Biddle, and one that added Sean Stewart, and had enough interesting pieces to me, as well as a veteran, experienced coach, to where I said, if you got a talented guy like Jackson Shelstead, who I just think is one of the best guards in the Big Ten, a proven high-level Big Ten big man who can stretch the floor, Nate Biddle. Kwame Evans is another big body who can give teams fits. I thought they had enough pieces there, and this has not been Oregon's season. They've been banged up, but the Ducks are 8-8. They are 1-4. They looked disinterested. They looked ill-equipped to handle what Ohio State had, and on a night when Ohio State didn't have like one dude carry the load. This was one of Bruce Thornton's quietest nights of the season, and it did not matter. Ohio State won this one rather convincingly. You go down the box score here. 6 Ohio State players scored, and 6 players finished between 9 and 14 points. And if you do the math, that tells you that, yes, the Buckeyes got something off their bench. Gabe Cupps, 9 points off the bench in this game, also added 4 rebounds. He had an assist. He had a steal. Gave Ohio State a significant shot in the arm. We're going to talk more about him here in a moment. So he had 9. Devin Royal had 14 and 10 to lead the Buckeyes. Christoph Tilley also had 14. He added 4 rebounds, 2 assists. John Mobley had 13 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist. And Bruce Thornton had 12 on 14 shots. Bruce did add 6 rebounds. Bruce did not attempt a free throw for the first time this season, and Bruce Thornton did not finish with an assist in this game. Got to go back a little bit to find a game where Bruce Thornton did not have an assist. And ultimately, it was February 6th, 2024, at home in Ohio State's 76-73 loss to Indiana, which went down as the penultimate home game for Chris Holtmann. Ohio State lost that game, put the wheels in motion. The Buckeyes would beat Maryland 4 days later in double overtime at home, then go lose at Washington the day before Valentine's Day, and then everything changed on Valentine's Day. It's been that long since Bruce Thornton did not have an assist in a game. And Ohio State still wins this game by 10 on the road. So, and then Amari Bynum finished with 10 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and 4 blocks. And some of them were pretty impressive. Ohio State, as a team, shot 45%, 45.3%, 24 of 53. Buckeyes were 6 of 18 from 3. That's 33%. Oregon finished at 32.8% on the game, 20 of 61. 7 of 30 from 3. That's 23.3%. And that is a significant uptick from where Oregon started the game. As Ohio State built a 15-9 lead just past the midpoint of the first half, Oregon was 3 of 22 from the field and 0 of 9 from three-point range. Ohio State certainly had a lot to do with that. The Ducks did take some poor shots and also miss a couple maybe open ones. But Ohio State, again, in this game, fell behind 2-0 on the 4th possession of the game, and then got a deep three-pointer from John Mobley Jr., and then did not trail the rest of the way. The Buckeyes led for 38 minutes and 32 seconds. So now, having won this game, they will decamp Eugene, head to Seattle, and play at Washington on Sunday. And looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing what that arena is like. I have a few thoughts about this Oregon experience and what the in-arena atmosphere was like. But we'll get to that in a second. Before we do, I want to remind you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you enjoy your favorite comments. While you're subscribing or downloading, please leave a review. Please click 5 stars, and please consider telling a friend. Thanks everyone who's taken the time to do all those things. Ooh, I got another review here from Dave. Oh, Dave, who was on the podcast. Thanks, Dave. He left a 5-star review just a couple days ago. He said he looks forward to me talking him off the ledge after games like the Nebraska game. Well, I'm not sure if I'm the greatest at that kind of stuff, but I do appreciate hearing from all of you, and appreciate all of you that allow us at the Dispatch to bring you this kind of coverage, being here in the arena in Eugene, Oregon, and then heading up to Washington to go cover that game here on Sunday. These are amazing experiences that I get to bring you along with, and I try to put as much of that as I can into the stuff that I'm writing, certainly the stuff that I'm podcasting here. And so thanks all of you that make all of this possible. Let's look at this game a little bit here. So first takeaway that I wrote about was Gabe Cupps, and one player having a night where he scores 9 points, that's not necessarily always going to be, or that's not always, the kind of thing that like, oh man, like put it in bold headline and run it on A1. But we've talked so much about Ohio State's lack of bench production, and not even just bench production, but bench aggression, bench anything. Certainly the 0 points off the bench in the 3-point loss to Nebraska loomed pretty large in that game. So Gabe Cupps finishing with 9 points in this game, like that's one thing. So he hit a 3. It was his first since the win at Northwestern back on December 6th. This is only the second time this season he's made more than one field goal. And his 4 attempts match a season high, and he had taken 3 shots in the last 6 games combined. And this is a guy who has played in every game for Ohio State this season. So when I talked to Gabe after the game, the first thing that I wanted to cover with him was just like, Gabe Cupps is a competitive player. I think anybody that's watched him, anybody that knows his family, that knows his dad, like he's a hard worker, he's a competitor, he's a fighter, he's a scrapper, like however you want to describe all that. And I think that made the juxtaposition of him then being in the game and seemingly not trying to score and seemingly not pushing the issue offensively. It was weird to try to like make that make sense mentally. Just like this is who you are as a player. Like what's not working there? And so when I asked him, how did you respond when you hear like your coach saying like, we need guys to take shots, we need guys to be aggressive? And he talked about just finding a balance. He talked about not second guessing yourself. I said, like, were you playing any different? Did you play any differently tonight than maybe, or had you been playing any differently in these recent games compared to like how you normally play? And he turned a lot of the conversation toward like creating and distributing and setting other guys up, which, certainly he did that tonight to an extent, but also he created for himself a bit. He drove the ball and looked to get to the rim instead of just get to a spot and then pick it up and kick it out. He looked more comfortable in this game than I think he's looked at any point this season. So he talked about getting early paint touches, knowing that he's got his coaches and teammates believing in him. So I said, was there a moment tonight where you felt like something was different? And I thought this was a really interesting answer because he hits this three-pointer. It comes during the first half where Ohio State is leading 15-9. And this is when Oregon, 3 of 22 overall, 0 of 9 from 3. And then Gabe Cupps comes down, and with 8:20 to go in the first half, he hits a three-pointer. And from where I'm sitting, I'm at that end of the court, and I could see him turn his head and look right at the Oregon bench and say something. And I could also see there was a referee right there. And earlier today, my wife and kids and I, because they made the trip with me, we drove here from Eugene to the Pacific Coast and just took in the sights, and kind of neat. Got to see both ocean. Well, not both, but I got to see the Atlantic and the Pacific in 1 week after going to Rutgers a week ago. But on the drive, we saw someone just blatantly run a red light. And as they did, there was a motor cop right there, or a cop on a motorcycle right there. And they just pulled right out, pulled him over. And it was like, what are you doing? But like they did the thing and the cop was right there. And I thought of that when Gabe Cupps hit the three-pointer, turned, said something to the Oregon bench, and the ref was right there. It made me laugh just a little bit. So he gets the technical foul, and Oregon comes down and hits 2 free throws. That pulled them within 7. And then Sean Stewart did reject a Gabe Cupps lob attempt. It was Gabe's, I think, only turnover of the game. But then Nate Biddle with a miss, and then Ohio State had another one of these possessions where Amari Bynum missed a three-pointer, but Ivan Yagovin came up with the offensive rebound and got it to Thornton, who hit a tough jumper, pushed it back to 9. So say all that to say, yeah, the technical resulted in the 2 free throws going the other way. But Gabe said that like that was the moment that kind of flipped things for him a little bit. And he said, this is what he told me, quote, I said, was there a moment tonight? He said, quote, I hate to say it, but the technical, I feel like, is something I wouldn't have done 2-3 weeks ago. He said, that's a step in the right direction for aggressiveness for me. Obviously, I don't want to get any more technicals. It's stupid for me to be running my mouth, but I think it's a good mindset shift for me. I thought that was really interesting. That was like the lead to my post-game takeaways that by the time you hear this are up at dispatch.com. Gabe talked about in that moment, he had heard the coaches yell like they could sag off of him, telling the Oregon defenders they could sag off of him, they could play off of him. And the scouting report would tell you that. And the season performance to this point would tell you that. And in that moment, he just said, like, time to flip it. And he hit the 3, and it just kind of, you could feel it take a little bit off of his shoulders. And I think collectively, I think the team felt that. When I talked to Devin Royal, he said, like, he's constantly been in his ear, like telling him he needs to be more aggressive. And when you're under the rim, like put it up, like take the shot. He was the lead, like, observation to me in this game, that he had the game that he did. 9 points off the bench. That's not necessarily a lot to write home about, but it's kind of like I don't mean for this to sound like a backhanded compliment for like Ohio State collectively, but the scene in the movie Major League where they tell where Charlie Donovan tells Lou Brown that he's been doing a great job, and he's like 60 and 62 is hardly a great season, and he says, hey, for this team or in this city, it is. Like, Ohio State has better aspirations than this, but given what Ohio State has been through from a scoring standpoint, to get 9 points off the bench, that's a step. And we'll see now what the Buckeyes can do at Washington. That takes me into my next thing, which is that my conversation with Devin Royal was very interesting because he wasn't very, like, there was no, hey, we've arrived. Hey, we figured it out. Hey, everything's good. I was asking him about how different it felt to be playing from a position of, or from being ahead on the scoreboard as opposed to trailing the game. So I'd mentioned earlier, like the stats for Ohio State in these high major games were mind-blowing in a way. I mean, in all 8 high major games, Ohio State had trailed at halftime. In 7 of those games, Ohio State trailed by double digits. And in the one that it didn't trail by double digits, it trailed by 9. So basically by double digits. And yet Ohio State was still 4-4. And in part because the Buckeyes have shown they can put runs together and they can really score at a prolific rate and put pressure on other teams. But the difference is that those runs would help them erase a double-digit deficit. Tonight was the first time we saw Ohio State put together a significant scoring stretch while it was already playing with a lead. This came in the second half where Ohio State leads by 5 at halftime. Oregon cuts it to 2 a couple minutes into the second half, but Ohio State has a 5-point possession where Gabe Cupps passed it to Christoph Tilley, who scored and drew the foul, but he missed the free throw. And then Nate Biddle was the one that committed the foul. This was 17:32 to go in the game. So he misses the free throw, but Amari Bynum grabs the rebound. He misses the putback, but then Ohio State still gets another offensive rebound, gets it to Bruce Thornton. He hits a 3, 5-point possession. Ohio State's back up by 7. And this is like the only push for Oregon when the game was even potentially in doubt. And the Ducks get it to within 43-40 when Devin Royal committed a foul with 15:07 left. And that resulted in 2 free throws. Ducks are within 3. And then this is where we see Ohio State's offense just take off. Ohio State started with another one of these extended possessions. John Mobley he missed a shot, but they got a team offensive rebound. He misses a 3-pointer, but there was a foul on the rebound. Or no, sorry, he didn't miss the 3-pointer. He hits the 3-pointer, but there was a foul on the rebound. Ohio State's possession extends. Junie misses a 3, but still he hits a 3. It's 46-40. And then Oregon gets a 3-pointer. It's 46-43. And then, sensing a theme here, Ivan Yagovin with a miss, but Devin grabs the offensive rebound, gets it to John Mobley. He makes a 3-point play here with 13:38 to go. That starts the run. Ohio State would score on 7 straight possessions, on 8 of 9, on 11 of 13 possessions for this 21-0 run. And it was like big shot after big shot. You had another 3-point play. Like, this was a moment where you just felt like, man, this is over for Oregon. Mobley got caught jumping. He couldn't get the shot off, and he just kind of had to throw it toward the baseline to Amari Bynum, and it just got past Oregon's defense. And Bynum gets the ball. He lays it in while he's being fouled. 3-point play with 11:18 to go. Ohio State's up 13. The play that led to an Oregon timeout. Gabe Cupps just blew right past his defender with 9:58 to go. Ohio State's up 16. And then Oregon gets the ball, gets a 3-point attempt. It was a good 3-point attempt from number 5, Takai Simpkins. And it looks good. It hits the rim, looks good. It rolls out. You could hear the crowd groan when that one didn't fall. And then, like 2 possessions later, Devin Royal with a 3-point play. He went right at Sean Stewart, drew the foul, scored. It's a 19-point lead. And then John Mobley gets fouled on a 3-pointer. He hits all 3 free throws. That's 22. Like, Ohio State puts this run together. And this run comes when Ohio State's already ahead. The difference in having to exert that energy to blow a game wide open as opposed to just get back in the game felt significant. And yes, Oregon then hit a couple of shots after this. Like Nate Biddle, who came in and leaves as Oregon's leading scorer, he finished with 14 points on 5 of 19 shooting. Those 14 points came, let's see, he got 3, 5, 8, 10 of those 14 points came in the final 6:43 after Ohio State was already winning by 24 points at this point. So he got some late as the game was already over. But Ohio State was able to build the lead, maintain the lead, and it stayed in double digits once it got to double digits. Like once Ohio State put this run together, Oregon never got it into single digits. There was never a moment where you thought, oh man, they get another stop, and it was over. And that felt very different to what we've seen Ohio State do at any point really this season. But then that leads me into my conversation with Devin Royal, which was about how I said, how different does it feel when you're playing from in front as opposed to trying to claw back into it? He said, it feels great to be able to do it, but we've got to be consistent with it. We've got to start every game like this. I said, but yeah, but like you know, when you blow the game open instead of having to, just claw your way back in. He said, it feels great, but it'll feel more great when we do it consistently. We can't just do it one time. He said, I'm looking onto the next game now. We got to keep doing the same thing. We can do that every game. Let's see. He referenced that again later in my conversation where he said, there was a play where he grabbed a rebound and like you could hear the thud when his body hit the floor. And Ohio State called the timeout. Diebler was fired up. I asked him about that. And he talked about like those 50-50 balls and how much we heard about that after the loss to Nebraska. But he said, that shows we got to get those 50-50 balls. He said, we've got to do it every game. We dove on the floor a couple times. We were going after every 50-50 ball. And that's what we're supposed to do. He said, when you sit there and just look at the ball, that's not going to do anything for us. The fact that we went out there and we did all that, he said, I'm happy. But then he said, again, he just kept emphasizing, like, you got to keep doing it. We've got to keep doing it. This is one game. Now it's on to the next game. Like he was already thinking about the Washington game. And I just thought that was interesting because usually even when there's another game and how many days or whatever, but even when there's another game, like they'll allow themselves an hour or 2 hours or whatever to appreciate the win and then move on to the next. But like Devin was not having that in this case. And I thought that was interesting. And that was, to me, that was worth noting on here, that was very much front of mind for him, that they did it once, they got to do it again. And I apologize for the quick delay there. So I'm in the media workroom here in the arena, and it's not empty yet. So just heard a walkie-talkie start going that threw me for a second. This will end up being, at least at this moment, this looks like it will end up being a quad 2 win for Ohio State. The net rankings hadn't refreshed as of this moment. It moved Ohio State up just a little bit at KenPom. The Buckeyes went from 38 to 36. And offensively, they stay at 25th nationally in adjusted offensive efficiency. But this was a strong defensive performance for Ohio State. The Buckeyes climbed 9 spots. Excuse me. Climbed from 67 to 58. Yeah, 9. It's late, guys, and I'm breaking one of my cardinal rules. I'm drinking Diet Pepsi. It's all they've got at the arena that's diet. My new crusade, if you can carry Mountain Dew anywhere, you should be able to carry Diet Mountain Dew. Like, can we normalize Diet Mountain Dew? That's not just a critique on Oregon. That's like a critique on the world at large. There's so many arenas I go to that only have Diet Pepsi, but then they don't have Diet Mountain Dew. Come on. But at any rate, this was one of Ohio State's better defensive performances. And again, the Buckeyes are up to 58th in adjusted defensive efficiency. So still room to go, but step in the right direction here. And again, 3-0 now on the road in the Big Ten with this game here at Washington. Ohio State is projected to lose by 1 point at Washington. 77-76 is the projection here at KenPom. The Huskies are 9-6 and riding a 2-game losing streak. Just lost at Indiana and at Purdue in a Midwest trip that ended on Wednesday. 81-73 was the loss to the Boilermakers. So, like I said, this was the first game without Brandon Knoll. Doesn't seem like a return is like right around the corner. I mean, he was in a significant walking boot and with like big time crutches. So I don't get the sense this is a quick thing, and I'm not sure it's a guarantee that he will be back at all this year. No one has told me that one way or the other, but there's still a lot of season left. But that it looked like when they term it an indefinite injury, that's usually not the best sign. So last thing I think I'll leave you with here is the last thing that I asked Jake Diebler about in this game, which was just like, kind of an open-ended thought, but just what is on your mind coming out of this game? I just was curious, like, what are you thinking? And he said, this is his last quote to me. He said, it reminded me a little bit of what Devin said. We obviously had a sour taste in our mouth regarding a couple 50-50 balls and some hustle plays that we wanted back against Nebraska. I thought tonight there wasn't a time out there where I didn't think our intent to go do that wasn't there. I thought we were really good in that regard. When there's a 50-50 ball on the ground, we were diving on it. We wanted to get it. We were battling on the glass. All that stuff was really good. The physicality and mentality we played with, this is who we need to be moving forward. Today was a good step forward. To add to that, I meant to mention this earlier, but I asked Gabe Cupps about, like, you guys are 3-0 on the road. Like, you've been in the league for a couple of years now. Like, the challenges of winning on the road in the Big Ten. He said it speaks to the connection this team has. It's you versus everybody on the road, no matter where you're going. There might be a couple fans there, a couple parents, but especially all the way out here, it's kind of just us versus the world. You just got to stay together and stay attacking. Devin talked about like having to match. Well, I asked about like how do you have to match their physicality? Because like, yes, Brandon Knowles had like some games where he hasn't been especially prolific, but he's been a part of the rotation, and they like having to replace him was going to have ripple effects across the roster. So when I asked Devin about like how did you guys collectively have to do that, he said we had to talk to each other. Like, we're gonna have to go hit harder than we've ever hit before. He said we had a meeting. We put stuff on the board. What can everyone do individually to help the team? Everybody put hit harder or be aggressive or encouraging. So everybody put their own thing. We did that. Each guy got better at their one thing. So if the whole team does that, we win every time. And when I asked Gabe about having to play without Brandon, he said, hopefully we can get him back in a little bit. Right when we figured out he was going to be out, we had a meeting. We said everybody's got to pull a little bit more because he's a great player and he's a big piece. I said, was that like a players only meeting? Or he said it was a meeting with everybody. He said the coaches said that about themselves included, that everybody's got to take a step up. I will say, I know a moment ago I said last thing, but one other thought that popped in my head here as I'm sitting there, because this is my first time here at this arena, and it's a cool arena. It's steep. It reminded me in some ways of like almost like if you were to combine like Maryland's student section with like Mackey a little bit. You felt like all like the crowd is it's steep and I assumed that like when it's full it would be loud, but it was a very sleepy atmosphere tonight, I would say. It was funny, like right from the beginning, like the PA announcer called Jake Dibbler, which was a new one. I've not heard that one before. And, there was not, certainly some of it is, I mean, the football team has I understand, a rather big football game on Friday night in the college football playoff. And like the band wasn't here. And I heard that like, it was like the backup cheerleaders and, it was not a highly attended game. There was not a lot of juice in the arena. I was kind of hoping for a better environment overall, to be honest, just given that it's Oregon. And looking forward to, I'm going to check out campus a little bit before we head up to Seattle here. But like at halftime, they played bingo, which was kind of a neat idea, but like also didn't really do a whole lot, I don't think, for the atmosphere. Like everyone had bingo cards and they were calling out numbers on the scoreboard, and whoever had bingo first, like yelled it out, and you could hear the person that got it. Like it was not like, hey, like this is the walls are shaking and you don't want to go play here. It was kind of like, eh. So, interesting experience. Really, really glad I got to be here. Hopefully you enjoy all the content coming out of the game, and I'll have more for you as we now move closer to Washington and get ready to go see Ohio State play there on Sunday. So now I'm going to wrap this one up because I got to get out of here and go get a little bit of sleep. It's almost 4 a.m. back home. Wild. As always, you can send along your questions, your comments, your love notes, your hate mail, and otherwise constructive criticism to me at Adam Jardy on Twitter or ajardydispatch.com. Thank you again for listening. Thanks to our web team for getting this out there. I know Patrick is off, so I think it's either going to be Scott or Bryce getting this out to you. But appreciate those guys for handling this. Next one for you will be Sunday evening, Sunday night. Look for that in your feed on Monday morning. But that one will be on location from Seattle. So stay tuned. I'll be back with you Sunday night. So until then, be kind, take care, and we'll talk soon.
Be sure and subscribe to the Buckeye Extra podcast in the iTunes Store, the Google Play Store, or on Stitcher.